Hello and welcome to Casting Views, the podcast hosted by Uncle and Nephew. I'm Dan.
And I'm Lou.
And we normally pick a well, you know the score by now, but we'll pick a topic and we cast views. This week, though, is going to be a little bit different because we're going to cast view on ourselves. Buckle up, everyone, as it'll be a bumpy ride.
1 star, would not recommend.
Before we start, though, a new feature for a new year. We'll discuss this later on in the episode, but we've been blown away by the support and interaction we've had from the podcasting community on Twitter in the last couple of months. So each episode from now, we're going to feature a short promo from podcasts who we are proud to call friends of the show. If you aren't already checking them out, have a listen to the promo and then go find them and check an episode or two out. You never know, you might even find your next favourite podcast. We start this week with the Cultworthy Podcast, a great pod that focuses on obscure films, but they also have audio blogs. So sit back and let's hear more from them.
The Cultworthy Podcast. Your host, Antonio Palacios, will guide you week by week through a bevy of cult favorites, obscure cinema, and hidden gems. Listen to us on your favorite platforms or follow us on thecultworthy.com. The Cultworthy Podcast.
Cool. Welcome back. Right. So, Lou, like we said, casting view on ourselves. Where do we start?
Well, I mean, I guess with kind of how we thought everything's gone so far. I mean, it was obviously kind of like a bit of a turbulent thing. I mean, I know that you'd had like a little bit of experience doing like podcast style, like conversation, that sort of thing, obviously previously. And this was something relatively new to me because I've listened to your stuff as well. But yeah, I guess kind of from the beginning, I think that listening to our most recent episodes and even now, I think that the kind of difference in the way that we flow and that sort of thing has kind of been much improved. But I think it's kind of come with confidence as well.
Yeah.
I feel like now as well, when you kind of listen to one of our episodes, it feels more so like a conversation that we have in real life. It's kind of less jittery and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I remember at the very beginning, it was all about sound issues and
Oh my
microphones being
word.
too
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah.
The amount of times we were stopping and pausing to be like, can we reduce the microphone levels? Can we increase them?
You're coming in too hot, Lou.
But yeah. I mean, the tech difficulties have been fun as well. I mean, I guess as well we can talk about like episodes because I know there's been a number I think that probably stand out to me in terms of my favourite. So I guess we'll start with you in terms of your kind of best eps, really.
And I kind of want to come back a little bit after just talk about some of the pre stuff. But I think I agree with you. I think we've definitely, well, at least we feel like it, whether it's come across to the listeners, but I think we've definitely hit a stride in like the last 4 or 5 episodes where we've made a bit more of also a conscious effort to pick subjects. It's something that we could get our teeth stuck into a bit more.
Yeah.
If I go back to the start, I think I like the Record Breakers one just because it's a goofy one. There's a lot of stupid stuff in that, and it's fun.
Yeah.
Kind of liked. I'm going to probably list them all. I like the double header we did of the social medias.
Yeah, that was good because I liked how kind of again like we took a proper different take with each ep to kind of look specifically at kind of two sides of what was the same topic. It was kind of a cool perspective shift, and I think it obviously because they ran next to each other. I think listening from one to the next, it was kind of a really nice contrast with the way that we did that one.
But I think just for how it felt while we were recording them, the last couple really, the con scams and frauds and the metaverse, I like those because that felt. Because going back to what you said, it was unusual at the start because we often have kind of like conversation like this, but it's often in person, and we're doing this
Yeah.
through a screen, which is odd, right? And with a big microphone stuck in our face. And once you get over that, becomes easier. Definitely those last two, and even probably go back one more to the cryptocurrency. That felt more like if you and I had just sort of met up and were just ranting about something. It kind of that feels more natural to me.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. I think that's probably what we wanted to try and capture because I think the whole kind of thing was we sat down and had a discussion about how we like have good conversations about such a wide variety of topics just day to day when we see
Yeah.
each other. It was kind of like, can we turn that into something that people would be interested in kind of listening to our views? Because obviously, I mean, I'd like to think that our opinions are interesting on these subjects. Be interested to see how many people also think so. But yeah, I think that's what we tried to capture. And I think that we've really improved with that because I think at the beginning as well, as much as like, you're in a room by yourself with a microphone in front of your face and so am I think it kind of was a little bit daunting to begin with,
Yeah, yeah.
almost, just as kind of like a new concept. But no, I think we've kind of grown into it quite well. So now it just feels like, again, like we've seen each other on a Sunday, and it's just the conversation that we would have had, but just put to the world, I guess.
This first episode went live on the 9th of September, and we had a few in the bag then, but basically we've been recording pretty much every week. So I think it feels
Yeah.
natural to us now, and I think that's helped. But if you had to pick sort of a one or two.
Yeah, I think the social media ones stand out to me because they were relatively early as well, and I think they were quite good episodes, especially as well because they were early into it. That they flowed really nice. I think it was good contrast in terms of the view because we took both sides, but from just respective angles, and it kind of allowed anyone that was listening to those episodes to kind of make their own judgment as well, because it was kind of like a nice balance between a good and a bad, if that makes sense. I mean, the cryptocurrency one was great, obviously. Good in the fact that it was more so a subject that we were really talking about. Do you know if it just kind of randomly came up in conversation with someone? You sometimes you have those conversations with people as well, where you don't really know quite enough about
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
but you're definitely willing to have an opinion on it.
Do you know what? If I had to look back at that, do you know that episode of Friends where Joey never gets involved in conversation, so he buys that encyclopedia, but he can only afford one, and it's the letter V. So he's trying to start conversations on like volcanoes and things like that, but people then move on to the next thing. That's how I feel we were on that. Like, let's do cryptocurrency, right? Yeah, okay. Do you know anything about it, Lou? No. Do you? No. Yeah, let's do it. What a great idea.
Yeah, that one was good. I think we should do more stuff like that where we just turn around and pick a subject. We're like, that's it. We're going to read about it for an hour, and then that's it. We're going to make a pod on it. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the cult of celebrity one as well. The cult of
Yeah,
celebrity one
yeah,
was cool because we kind of came at that from the perspective of how things have changed over time. And obviously, you being ever so slightly older than me,
slightly.
um, have have a have a perspective of things. Kind of the way that they were more so kind of 20 years ago. So I think that's cool. Whenever we've got a subject where you can look at it from different perspectives, and we can each maybe bring a different view on it, dependent on kind of the experiences that we've had. That one was good. And then it's true, like you said, I really like the cons, frauds, and scams one, and the metaverse one. Although it really did trigger me, to be fair.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? I think the cult of celebrity one as well, I think was the first episode. And it was you as well who wanted to make a conscious choice to have something a little bit more like we would do. I think none of them are particularly uncomfortable, but the first set of batch of episodes, I think we tried to pick comfortable topics for us just to get into the swing of
Yeah.
doing this. And I think the cult of celebrity was one I remember you definitely wanted to do, just to kind of pick things that were a bit more topical. And I think that was kind of the turning point in us having probably a bit more of our own personalities, as we normally would be in real life, come out into the pod, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that was probably definitely the episode I switched to be more sweary.
So yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I think that's true as well. I think that's the thing. I think like but again, don't get me wrong. Obviously, like the record breakers one, again, I always liked because it was just a hilarious episode. Like
yeah,
even with
yeah,
the research that we were doing, I didn't stop laughing
yeah,
when we were looking at some
yeah,
of the world records that we were doing, that we were looking at. But yeah, I think that we wanted to make sure that everything was it was a nice subject, if that makes sense. Whereas now I think we're more comfortable touching on stuff that can be slightly more sensitive, or has a bit more of a serious kind of note to it, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
But that's a good thing, I think, because it means that we can have just good conversation about real issues, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think most, well, if not all of the subjects as well, we've brought our own experiences into it as well, which is something I like us doing, because it's sometimes, everyone's got stories. It's just they're not often told or heard, right?
Yeah, this is true, this is true.
I do want to go back to the start, and I haven't really spoken about it because I kind of initially wanted to keep it separate. Yeah, I'm involved in another podcast as well called Just Forget About It. So like you said, I had a bit of comfort and what's the word, experience doing that. But having said that, that was just appearing on it rather than putting it together. So that whole bit was daunting for me. So I remember,
Yeah.
I think it took a couple of months in all for us to, well, probably to decide the name. Do you remember I came around to your house once? We sat around the kitchen table, and I think we were literally almost punching holes into the table because we couldn't come up with a name.
Yeah, it's so difficult. Like you just think to yourself, what's going to be snappy? What's going to be this? I remember my mum and my sister were in the kitchen as well, and we were like, "Look, if you got any ideas, please give us some inspiration. We need something." And then we were banding about just anything that kind of came to mind, weren't we? Like I think I said this when we were talking about it, but I was just like, 2 peas and a pod? Can we make like a joke out of that? I still think that's a brilliant name, to be fair. And I don't know if anybody's claimed that. They must have done. We kind of banded about so many ideas. And then in reality, when you look at casting views, I think that it captures actually what we do brilliantly. I
Yeah.
think it's kind of down to a T, really.
And do you know the funny thing about that was, like I said, we had about 20, 30 different variations at your house. And then it was that night I went home. And I don't know how or why that hit me, but I thought it was probably the most obvious one. But I think we were like, yeah, thinking of all these clever names. And then that one, I think, just like hit like a bolt out of the blue. But the one thing I did want to say was, did your girlfriend first episode, didn't she accuse you of putting your telephone voice on in the first episode? I
Yeah,
think.
she did. She turned around to me and listened to the first episode. She was like, "Why have you put your posh voice on?" I was just like, "Well, I don't, I need to present myself well to our viewership to begin with, you know."
Swearing? What's swearing?
Yeah, I was just like, "Absolutely not. It's abhorrent swearing." And I turned around and I was just like, I want our audience to grow with me and see what a terrible person I am over time,
Yeah.
so they can, ease into me.
But I remember as well, actually talking about the name, I think before I initially got you on board was I thought, you know what, I'll do some of the legwork. And I picked a name, but I think I picked Let's Talk About, didn't I?
Yeah,
And when we
yeah.
started recording the initial couple of episodes, I kept calling us Let's Chat About. And that's when I realized that that's not the great epic, the title, because if I couldn't even remember the bloody name. And then, yeah, I remember, yeah, sort of asking you if you wanted to do it, and you did. But then there were still loads of things got in the way. So, for example, you caught COVID for the first time.
Yeah, I did catch COVID for the first time. Recovered now, by the way,
Yeah. Oh,
from the
yeah.
last
Oh, yeah,
episode.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. If you're listening to this in order, yeah, he is COVID free now. I ruptured a disc in my back a couple of months before well, I think as we were starting to do it. So I remember when we came to record the first episode, I remember I didn't say it, but I was in agony sitting down at the chair while I was trying to record it.
See, we're fighting through the pain for all you guys' entertainment.
Yeah, all the omens were there. Yeah, yeah. So if this isn't worth a 5-star, battle through 2 bouts of COVID and a ruptured disc. Come on, people.
But yeah, no, it's true, and it's weird, obviously, because kind of harking back to what you said previously about it now being kind of a routine thing. Now I think we kind of just say to each other, "What day's best for you this week?"
Yeah.
And I mean, even it's become a normal thing for my girlfriend as well. She'll send me a text and be like, "Oh, what you up to?" I'm like, "No, I'm recording an episode in 20 minutes. Speak to you in an hour and a half." I'm like, "Don't disturb me."
Oh, that was the other thing. Remember we were saying we wanted them to be like 30 minutes to 45 minutes maximum, and then we're like running I mean, I tend to cut a fair bit out, but it's like we're recording, it's like it hits the hour and a half mark, and we're like, yeah, we probably should stop now, right?
It's almost like when you're doing the editing, it's like when you've had like an exam or something and you need to get under the word limit.
Yeah.
That's what every episode became, because it's true. We did say we wanted them to kind of be like short bursts, and then was it the social media one that was our first really
I
long one?
think so, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that was like a proper hour and a half job in terms of
Yeah.
the recording time that we had, and then it was just like, wow, bloody hell, we didn't realize how long we could actually talk about these things for. But again, I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think that if you sit down and we kind of have a subject, I mean, like I said, most of them have run over. I know that the wrestling one went on for a lot longer than we would have
That's our
anticipated.
longest one. Yeah, that's our longest.
Yeah, and I think that that's as well, really, because we had so many experiences with wrestling. It was kind of like a nostalgic throwback. You don't realize how much it had an effect on you until you then kind of come to have the conversation, because you think about things that you never did or never thought going into the episode, that then kind of come to you or are triggered by what the other person said, that all of a sudden kind of hark back to a really good story that you might have. But again, I kind of like that, because it means that we kind of flowed conversation really nicely, and I feel people kind of get a really nice perspective of what our opinions are on things, or even our personal experiences and how they've affected us with it.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? And I think we should say that we don't script the episodes. What we tend to do is the week before say, right, what should we pick next? So we try to alternate, so don't we, as in who's picking the
Yeah,
subject, and then we have a rough idea and come to the episode with some notes each, won't we? And but that's it. And I think that's where what you said is absolutely spot on. Where our episodes tend to overrun, because just like in real life, we'll just branch off in so many other directions. There's something you'll say will spark a memory in me, or something I'll say will spark a memory in you, and we don't necessarily stick to the objective brief. 100%.
Yeah, this is the thing, because we'll come with a load of notes and be like, okay, well, it'd be nice if we could flow conversation, like, in a structure, for instance. And then all of a sudden, episode starts, we're like, oh my God, do you remember this? What about this? What about that? But again, I think that that's evident as well in episodes where we're passionate about things.
I think that's where I felt an improvement was at the start. I felt a bit of pressure because I was thinking, right, I'm doing this and I've not put a podcast together. And once you're on, I wanted to make sure, we were doing this right. And I think at the first few episodes, I was bringing almost like a little mini script for myself. But then you're following that and you're not necessarily then following the conversation. So now it is literally just a few one-liners to nudge memories of stories just so we can get the conversation going. And like I said, I don't care anymore that if we end up talking about something completely random on a specific subject, because like you said, these stories are ones we want to get out. So do it.
Because that's the thing. I think in the one where we did where media and kind of how media's changed as well, like, you come to the notes with just some facts just to illustrate kind of what you might want to say. And so that's really the only thing that I ever have prepared for an episode. I think when we talked about social media trends in the dark side, I just had a couple of examples of people that had bad experiences, obviously, with social media trends, and then everything else was kind of, as it comes, because then you can have a conversation about what was dangerous, kind of your opinion on the matter. But really, yeah, I think it's just a case of, if we need some facts down, that's all kind of we come prep with now, which is good. I think it means that we're more comfortable doing it as well.
Definitely. I remember there's been a number of episodes where I've come into the room and I've said to the other half, I've said, I think this might be a shorter episode. Come out an hour and a half later, and it's like, yeah, that's one of our longest episodes we recorded. She goes, you said that last week. I said, I know, and I'll probably say it next week.
Quietly knocking on the door, being like, "Are you all right? I expected you an hour ago."
Yeah. But another funny thing you mentioned was about the technical difficulties, and there were so many at the start, weren't they? Mainly, like I said, around the microphone.
Oh my God, it was awful. Oh, hang on a minute. Can we tell the story about your initial microphone?
Oh yeah, you can do, but I still stand by the fact that it's valid. But go on.
Maybe we'll have to post a picture on it and put it to a Twitter poll.
No pictures exist.
Because we both bought microphones, didn't we? And I think in the first episode we had like volume control problems, didn't we?
Yeah.
And you were saying how you felt your audio was a little bit muffled, but we had the same mic, so I thought, oh, okay, I tell you what, and you brought it to mine, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I remember, so we were having a look at the microphones, and then I think you'd
No,
left the
no,
like
no, I came to yours. I think I did bring it, but I looked at your setup and I said, and that's when I spotted the thing you're
yeah,
about to
yeah,
say.
yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, because then you said that you'd seen that I hadn't had the like the foam thing over the head of the microphone, and I remember saying to you, I was just like, I'm pretty sure that doesn't need to be on there. I thought that was just a protective thing, and you were like, hang on a minute, is that why my audio's been muffled for the first like episode and a half or two episodes?
But to be fair, even with that stupid realization being made, I still wasn't happy with it. So I ended up getting another one,
Yeah,
and this one is better. And I don't know why, because like I said, we had exactly the same. And I've got a different one now by the same company, but it's just fine. But I remember the amount of times though at the start where you've not been able to hear me, or I've not
yeah.
been
Oh
able to
my
hear
God.
you, and then you going mad because you couldn't hear me, and like I could hear you, and I was seeing you stomp around your room.
You know what? If only we had those recorded as like snippets, because people listening to this, if you thought the swearing was bad in a few recent episodes, you should only imagine the compilation that we could create with me and my technical difficulties before we start pressing record. Because oh boy,
I, I
not a good place to
I think
be.
a couple of episodes I have put like the old Marvel after credit, what's the word, bloopers, but I can't remember which episodes are on. Again, I probably can say this. I remember for a couple of weeks in a row, you kept mucking up the intro.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
And I was like laughing, but saying it's fine, it's fine. And then after a couple of weeks, you got it bang on. And then the next one I did, it took me about 3 or 4 minutes. I kept pausing it up, didn't I? And I was going mad. And I think that was the one where I put it at the end. I thought, well, I've got fair's fair. I kind of called you out on it.
Yeah, I think the one where you put a credit at the end as well, where I absolutely butchered the ending.
Oh, the ending, yeah, the
I was
catchphrase,
like,
yeah.
as always, there's many podcasts to choose, but thank you sometimes maybe for
Reading,
casting. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I was like,
watching.
that's it, finished. I knew when you'd stepped in to take the intro from me, you were just like, have you ever heard that audio on TikTok where it's like, you're done, you're done.
It'll be good at some point because I know we've kind of discussed like for the record breaker one, we wanted to come together to do some actual ones. So hopefully in a few weeks when we're out of the Omicron, what's the word, the Omicron wave, maybe we could do a few stupid things to go on TikTok.
Yeah, yeah. Again, you know what? Maybe we should poll that to the viewers as well. Turn around and say of all of the stupid social media trends you'd like to see us
Oh
do.
God, yeah.
Well, with your ruptured disc,
Remember my
we can't
bad
let
back?
you do
Yeah,
the
yeah,
box crate
yeah,
challenge. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
We won't be letting you do the box crate challenge. You could do the cinnamon challenge, maybe.
Anything eating, I'm fine with food. Anything food wise, yeah, whatever, I'm cool. But you know, if even if we give ourselves a little pat on the back, I think I'm really pleased with how this has gone because, like I said, you know, I just kind of wanted to set up my own one to do a slightly different podcast to what I was in, and knew I wanted another voice on it. Like I said, the conversations we normally have on a Sunday afternoon after dinner, I thought it'd be great. And I think it's always difficult to know are we always going to have the time, etc. And like I said, I think that's why at the start we had like 4 episodes in the bank, but now we are at most it's the week ahead, and I think you know we've carried on and done really well. So yeah, just take it opportunity to say thank you, Lou.
No, no, my pleasure. Oh, no, I'm all good for it. Like I said, you've been the one that's been slaving over all of the editing, cutting out all of my terrible mistakes, making sure that my audio isn't too loud because I'm breaking the sound levels.
It is funny though. A good sign is like often when I'm listening back, I'm chuckling myself, which is great because I'm remembering kind of the context. So sometimes I might be playing the same bit of audio over and over and over again to work out where I should make a cut. If I'm chuckling back when I'm editing, I know it's a good episode.
Because that's the thing, even when they drop fully and I listen to them back, sometimes I sit there and I do it again. I laugh to myself because I'm like, that was brilliant, to be fair.
I think the other one we should call out as well is I know it's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea, but when we did the football one, the Tottenham when we got Conte,
Yeah, yeah.
because that was our
That was
first
kind of like a
attempt.
nice
Yeah,
soundbite almost.
I think we did it on a Tuesday night, didn't we? And we got it published the next morning. So it was our first attempt at getting something out within, well, it was within 12 hours, really.
Yeah, yeah.
So I kind of want us to do more of that. So I'm going to just call you up at short notice, say, get on the mic. We're doing this now.
Yeah, have you seen this in the news? We need to do an episode now. I'm like, I'm at work. No, no, now. It's just me doing an episode on a packed train.
Cool. So I wanted us to kind of go over some numbers from a podcast.
So I think we'll start with the platforms then.
Yeah.
Maybe where people are listening.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, there's one person that's humongously in the lead with 62% of plays on the platform. That's Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. I was quite surprised at that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I thought we'd see a bit more of an even split between Apple Podcast and Spotify, to be fair.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought that there'd be a bit more of a kind of break because Spotify come in next at 9%. And then people just listening on like web browsers comes in at 9% as well. But yeah, I thought there'd be a bit more of a kind of even split there. But I guess Apple Podcasts are really kind of ruling the podcast world at the minute, really, because everybody's phone comes with that app. I mean, that's where I listen to it as well, to be
Same
honest,
here.
just
Yeah.
because it's
Are we
yeah,
the
yeah, it's
62%?
yeah, maybe we are. And then we've got kind of going lesser. So we've got Breaker, which is 4%, Castbox 3%, TuneIn 2%, Anchor 2%, Stitcher 2%, and then all other platforms make up 6% together. So we're on a fair number of platforms as well. To be honest, it's
Yeah.
it's a pretty impressive feat. There's no one that we can't reach.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So if you're not listening, you won't be hearing this. But why aren't you listening?
Yeah. But I think it's just testament to the fact that that Apple are kind of just people's favored podcast listeners as well, and also it might have something to do with the fact that our demographics as well in terms of age and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So obviously you sent all of the kind of stats over to me, kind of about what our listening range was, and unfortunately we haven't captured anybody below the age of 22.
Oh yeah. I'm kind of surprised at that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when we made our Christmas episode and we were talking really carefully about Santa Claus, I guess we didn't need to be that careful.
Yeah. Yeah. So the 0 to 17 bracket can listen to that apart from the swearing. That's all.
Yeah. Oh, well, there'd be a lot of bleeps. God, could you imagine if you had to make censored
I
version?
do wonder if it is because we're rated explicit, but kids love that. I mean, that's why you said yourself you had Call of Duty for like Christmas when you were like 12 or something, didn't you? So
Yeah. I remember my first experience of a violent game. You let me play Grand Theft Auto Vice City on your PlayStation 2.
are you sure it was me?
Okay, sorry. Just for context, he didn't let me play it, but he did say the PlayStation's there, and also the copy of Grand Theft Auto might happen to be with it.
You can't prove that. Nobody can prove that.
but also similarly disappointing, we've not had hit anybody in the 60 and over bracket.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of get that. Maybe we need to pick a subject that might appeal to that. Maybe we should talk about retirement one day.
Yeah, or like, or orthopedic chairs or something.
Oh God, I could do with that.
Wait, hang on a minute. Yeah, well, maybe you should mark yourself as in the 60 plus category.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think our main demographic obviously falls between 23 and 59. Biggest of that portion being 35 and 44.
yeah, yeah,
So, I think that really kind of captures the age range of the people that we know predominantly as well. And I guess as well, kind of maybe in the community and that sort of thing. I think when you look at content creation and that sort of thing, I think typically people that kind of run on podcasts from the outset are probably kind of around the like that age bracket range, if that makes
yeah.
sense. I think, kind of up until your kind of early 20s, when you look at content creation, it's much more people that are on like your TikToks. YouTube's obviously quite varied, but when you look at your really, really huge creators at the minute, I think most of them are kind of their early 20s. But when you look at podcasts, whilst those big creators have obviously got podcast platforms as well, I think the majority of podcast platforms are just slightly a little bit older. There's a greater kind of range of people that are popular, I think, in the space that are a little bit older.
I think that's the thing. Just the amount of podcast platforms are out there as well. I mean, it's unreal the amount of places where you can get podcasts from. So I do wonder if kind of that's why there is so much of a split, because you've got, yeah, like you said, probably Apple is the big one, and then the other makes up quite a bit because there are just so many different apps to hear podcasts on.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, you get a lot of people. I know a couple of people that don't want to listen to the big names. You know, so they won't want to listen to an Apple or anything. They want to find like an indie platform to listen to it on. Did I send you? So within the Apple, the makeup of the Mac and the iPhone.
Oh, I don't think. Bear with me. I don't think I've seen that one.
So when you go to devices, the Mac is 42%. So we've got some what's the word? Wealthy listeners.
Yeah, yeah. Well, bloody hell! You know what? Right, we've really captured.
Yeah.
We've captured the Bill Gates of these world. Well, not the Bill Gates
Well, yeah,
actually.
yeah. Yeah, but no, the Mac is 42% and the iPhone was 37%, which I was actually quite surprised actually. I thought the iPhone would be higher.
Yeah, because I think as well, but I mean I listen to everything on my phone, whether it's music, whether it's podcasts, even if it's YouTube, to be honest, I listen on my phone. I think that's actually quite nice, the fact that it's kind of been listened to through Mac, because it's kind of like somebody's put us on in the background
Yeah,
to kind of work through something, and we're kind of the audio of choice, which I think is quite
yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that. I like that explanation actually. I mean, I have to say these stats are coming from Anchor. So I don't know. The one thing I don't know, to be honest, is does it collate everything? So if there is a random app that we find ourselves on, does it collate from that? I don't know. Yeah, all these we're currently getting from our dashboard in Anchor.
Another point as well that I wanted to go on to is because we had some gender stats as well, which is quite cool how they break all of
Yeah,
these things down. And we need I think a bigger push, because men, in terms of listeners, people that have put their identity down as male, 83% of our listeners make that up. Female 13%, not specified is 4%, and non-binary 0%. So I don't know. Maybe we need to be pushing out to the women and other gender groups as well. Maybe that's our next big push.
yeah. It is one of those things that when I was thinking about it, I don't think our episodes are heavily swayed one way or the other. I think they're fairly neutral sort of subjects. But then when I saw that, I was actually, I won't necessarily say disappointed, but I was quite surprised that it was that a bigger gap.
Yeah, because yeah, it's true. I mean, maybe it's just by virtue of the fact that we're kind of two blokes having a chat. It's almost kind of like we kind of I think you talked to me about a review that somebody had given us recently, which was about kind of seems like it's two blokes in a pub kind of having
Yeah,
a drink together.
yeah,
And I think maybe that might what it be. I think that whenever you listen to a podcast, I think immediately you kind of listen to the first 5-10 minutes if it's something that you've never listened to before. I think from that immediate 5 or 10 minutes, you cast your view on what you think, and it's kind of for you or not for you.
mm,
So maybe it's just by virtue of the fact that we're two guys sitting down having a chat about random conversations. Maybe it's just naturally more appealing to blokes to kind of have a listen.
yeah, but possibly. But we're here for all. We're here for all.
Yeah, we are. We are. I mean, if there's any topics that the women that do listen to would like to hear hear us talk about, we'd be more than happy to accommodate. But yeah, I mean, I know that you had some stats in terms of kind of like viewership breakdown across the world because we're planning on going international, and we are to an
Yeah,
extent
no, no,
already.
definitely, definitely. So again, I like Anchor's geographic breakdown. I like the fact that 100% of our listens come from Earth. We haven't quite broken the interplanetary listening yet. So we thank all you Earth listeners out there. What is really interesting is the United States are our biggest audience at the moment with 51%. So hello, everyone in the States.
Yeah, but you know what? Maybe we were right when we were calling it soccer.
Yeah, maybe that's what we should do. If I then drill down into it, so we can see Virginia is 83% of that. New York is 7%. Rhode Island is 2%. And then everything else is kind of like the 1%. But we've got Texas, Maryland, South Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, California, Washington, Florida, Colorado, and Utah. That's pretty cool.
That's a cool breakdown. I mean, Virginia's cool. New York is pretty cool as well. As soon as you said New York, I immediately wanted to go bing bang.
I, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, firstly, I think when we started doing this, we weren't necessarily thinking of like an audience number we wanted. I think we said even if it's just if we could get a couple of our family members to listen, that'd be brilliant, right? But the fact
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we're being listened to in all those states, it just kind of blows my mind. I think it's brilliant.
Do you know what one thing? Could you ever imagine if that counter did tick over to say that somebody not on Earth has listened to the podcast?
Yeah. Oh, do you know what we should aim to do? Like in last week's episode, we said Jingle Bells was the first song played. Maybe we should get our podcast to be the first podcast, if they haven't done that already, to be played
Oh
in
my gosh,
space.
do you know what? We need to write to some NASA astronauts, or do you know, like astronauts on the International
Yeah,
Space Station, and say, could you just please give us a listen from the
NASA,
space
Richard
station?
Branson, Elon Musk, anyone. If you want to, we'll give you. We'll pay you probably £5.50 and a packet of crisps to be for our podcast to be played in space.
Or we'll rebrand or something. We'll become the Tesla Casting Views podcast, but please, just when you go up.
Number two on the list geographically is the UK, which I think we probably understand, but that's 43%, and that is made up of England 88%, Northern Ireland 11%, and Scotland 1%. Who do we need? We need Wales, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, yeah.
So we've got the UK in number two, in spot number two. Those are our main two, but then we've got sort of listenerships or had listens in a lot of other places, and I'll just reel these off. I'll stop for one. So we've got Germany is at 2%, Italy, which I'm sure is our cousin. So hi Luca, or ciao Luca. We've got Barbados at 1%.
Sorry, just before you go away, I think that one's amazing because could you think of anything better than sitting on a beach in Barbados with a pina colada in hand, listening to us? Honestly, perfection.
Yeah, that is and that's pretty cool to have on the list, Barbados. We've got Australia, Zambia, Canada, Croatia, and I'm going to let you into a secret. That was me when I went. But I did leave some advertising. I sent you the picture, didn't I?
Yeah, yeah.
There was a cafe that we went in where they've got these wooden forks that you eat, to eat your food, and people were leaving their names on them and the country they're from, putting it on. I put our Twitter handle and the name of our podcast on it instead. Croatia, we've got the United Arab Emirates, Bangladesh, India, Saudi Arabia, and Namibia.
That's a really cool ranging number of nations
Brilliant.
as
It's
well. That
brilliant,
is.
isn't it? It's brilliant. Like I said, really chuffed. I think really chuffed with the States audience there. Yeah, it's just really, like you said, broad is the word. It's fantastic.
But you know what, as well? Do you know when you talked about, how we've captured really rich listeners? Well, they're on holiday in Barbados and the UAE potentially. If Croatia was you, I don't know if anybody's holidayed in Barbados and the UAE. It'd be cool as well. I mean, I know that it's probably too in depth, but it'd be cool to see as well the breakdown of each episode in terms of country viewership.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure you can do that, but that would be cool. So, if you are listening in any of these countries, give us a tweet or an email.
Yeah, do you know what? I'd be interested as well. That'd be amazing if anyone did come back just to say, yeah, I'm the listener or I'm one of the listeners that's coming from, for instance, Saudi Arabia, because I'd love to know how they found the podcast to kind of organically to begin with. I think that would be something quite cool.
We'd have you on the show. We'll talk to you. The
Yeah, maybe
show.
we
God,
could have
listen
like
to us. We'll have
a
you.
guest episode. Yeah, no, we'll give you the opportunity to come on and cast views with us.
Yeah, so if you're a listener in any of those countries, so we'll reel them off again. So it's Namibia, Saudi Arabia, India, Bangladesh, the United Arab Emirates, Canada, Zambia, Australia, Barbados, Italy, Germany. I mean, we're going to have some people on from the US and the UK soon in the new year, I hope. Anyway, but yeah, any of those countries, if you are the listener there, get in touch, and if you'd like to come on one of our shows, our episodes, yeah, we'll gladly have you on.
Yeah, but cool. That'd be casting views goes
Yeah,
international.
I like that, casting international views. Yeah, what else? We had some other stats there, didn't we? So we've currently got, as of right now, we've got 606 plays of everything, which I think is quite cool.
Yeah. I think that's pretty decent as well, considering we came into this with little experience and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, and it's just the two of us, right?
Yeah.
I think what we wanted to do was just have a bit of fun recording stuff we'd normally talk about and put it out there in the hope that some other people might be interested. So the fact we've had sort of 606 people and people from the UAE listening to us is great. What else have we got? We've got, so including this one, we've done 16 regular episodes and one bonus one, which is pretty cool. And I think excluding this one, we've got 17 hours, 26 minutes of content. So with this one, let's round it up to 18. What else are you going to do with your time off? Just give us a listen.
Yeah.
Download our entire
Yeah.
catalogue. You got almost a day
You
there.
think, if you've got your 10 plus days off work until the new year resumes after Christmas. Well, actually, no, this is going out in the new year, isn't it?
This is going to be 2nd of Jan. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, there's nothing, no better way to get rid of the back at work blues than listening to us in the
There
car
you go.
in the morning on the way home.
Oh, that's a
That's what you
catchphrase
need to
there.
do.
That's a catchphrase
Yeah,
there.
2 weeks, that's it. All of a sudden, all your woes are gone.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, you've got almost sort of 19, 20 hours of content by the time this goes out. The longest episode was an hour 34. That was the wrestling. We've got around 60, 71, 72 unique listeners. So yeah, really pleased with that.
Do you know, as well as you said, the longest episode was wrestling, but there's not really a shortest one. There's just the longest and
Yeah,
the less long.
yeah. Longest, long, longer, and longest. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I still think that is brilliant because I remember one of the things saying they need to be half hour to 45 minutes long. And apart from the bonus one where we set the target of it being 30 minutes at most, yeah, we've woefully missed the mark on all of those, haven't we?
Yeah, but however, I kind of again think that that's potentially a positive thing because for the fact that we've had listens in a vast number of countries and people have listened to us, considering again, there's no kind of context in terms of finding us. You just kind of have to give it a listen and give us a go. I like the fact that people have tuned in for potentially an hour and a half to
Yeah.
listen to two guys that they don't know
Yeah.
just because they've enjoyed the sound of their voices. I look at that and I'm like, that's a pretty impressive, cool thing.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. We both wanted to do a podcast that we think we'd be interested in. And we've had some really good feedback, both either through Twitter or a couple of reviews that have said the chemistry and the rapport between us. One, that's great because we are uncle and nephew, so that's a
Yeah,
good thing.
you'd bloody hope so.
But two, I think that's kind of what we wanted. We kind of just wanted an honest approach to a podcast, didn't we?
Yeah, and the thing is as well, I kind of think that that's why the dynamic kind of worked immediately off the bat. So I feel like when we set out on episode one, it's probably a kind of initial comfortable listen for people because we immediately know each other really well off the bat. It's conversations that we already have, and so
Yeah.
as a result, I feel like the chemistry kind of means that it's a nicer flowing conversation, and people feel maybe more a part of that as opposed to listening to just two people speak at each other.
The conversations, while maybe awkward at start, that was, I think, more getting used to this, talking like this, but then they're not forced. I think our conversations are genuine. It's just, in the initial few, it was a case of, yeah, getting used to talking to each other, like we say, through a screen, which we'd never done really, had we? So
Yeah, it's always the thing is as well. I have to turn around and put my hands up as well because I'm always the second one to the podcast recording session, and I have to say my uncle's always already set up, and I'm there with my microphone fiddling about, turning around, being like, "Can you hear me? No, no,
I,
yes, no."
and I've probably actually done 3 iterations of recording to test the audio out before you've even logged on.
I've logged on, and then you're like, "Right, his mic's done, so we need to do 3 more tests."
I'll never forget, we started this, like I said, we started recording in August, which we actually had a couple of weeks of really hot weather, didn't we? So I remember, I think you had the window open. So one podcast, you can hear a dog barking and you don't have a dog. And I don't have a
Yeah,
dog.
yeah,
And
oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Or I live on a rather like there's a really big hill behind my house, and sometimes you'll hear like a speeding car or something go past. I'm like, I hope that hasn't been picked up. At one point, there was almost like a firework that sounded like it went off
yeah,
right
yeah,
above my room,
yeah.
and I thought, right, that sounds like I live in like a gunshot's just gone off outside my window.
Do you want me to call the police? Kind of, I just also, while we're talking numbers, I also wanted to just say thank you to kind of like one of the things that I don't want to say surprised me, but has really been great is like the Twitter community. We started this up honestly not having a view of numbers. We just wanted to do this. I think we thought it'd be something fun we wanted to do. As of recording, we've currently got 628 followers on Twitter, which is just madness. It's just it's brilliant, but it's madness.
Yeah, again, considering how short a period of time it's been, and I think as well with podcasting kind of as a platform, I think the kind of growth kind of works at a more consistent but a slower rate, if that makes sense. So I think when you look at the Twitter and how many people have been interacted with and the amount of followers on there, I feel like it's been a really nice, steady kind of increase over time as well. I feel like it's been something that's been consistent because I know you'll send me a text and it'll be like hit 600 followers today. It was
Yeah, I get
500 2 weeks
excited.
ago. Do you know what I mean? It's cool milestones. It's cool milestone,
Yeah, I kind of get excited about all this.
and it's maybe a confirmation as well that you're kind of doing something right.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it's also brilliant because it means you and I are doing more stuff together, and this is a really cool thing to do. But I was also thinking, I was looking at it and thinking, no, deep down, I would like someone to listen, you know. And the fact
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, the fact the numbers are going up, and I do just want to. The danger of doing this is I know I'm going to miss a couple out, but if I've missed anyone out, it's not intentional, and we will pick you up in another episode. Did just want to shout out quite a few podcasts who have given us a lot of support or have given us some comments or interacted with us a lot on Twitter. So I'm just going to read some out now. And like I said, thank you to everyone. Basically, if we start, we've got Chat Tsunami, the ODPH podcast, Drep and Stone, the Best Film Ever podcast, Unchefed, the Cultworthy podcast, Here's Looking at You film, Talking Smack, that's SMAC, Sugar Coated Murder, the Fuck My Work Life podcast, Breakup Gaming Society, Drunk Theory, The Lords of Swine, Chat Smash, I Spit on Your Grades, Sass and Sips, Cult Connections, Uncut Gems, She Will Rock You, Just Films and That, The One Up Podcast, We Needed Roads, How I Met My Dads, Hits Don't Lie, Bigger Movie Pod, and Not Before Coffee. And I'll shout out the other one. I mean, just forget about it as well. So it's quite a few there, but just say thank you for kind of the support.
Do you know what? That's really funny as well because all of the names that you reeled off linked to what we said before because all of those names were better than the initial ones that we ever came up with.
Yeah, I was actually as I was reading through, I was thinking how many great names are. I love the hits don't lie. I mean, that's great. And actually, while we're doing sort of shout outs, also to the applications we're using, so Zencaster, Anchor, and yeah, all the platforms we're on. So like Good Pods, Apple, Spotify. Actually, yeah, Spotify now you can leave star ratings on Spotify. So if you do like us, consider listening to us on Spotify and leaving us a rating, please.
Yeah, and if you do leave us a rating, tell us where you're listening from in
Yeah,
your
yeah,
rating.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so that was kind of it. Like I said, I think this has worked out perfectly timing wise because this is going to go out just at the turn of the new year, and I think it feels like a nice end to almost like this season. I think we've kind of got some discussions about some plans of what we do next in terms of maybe kind of some subjects and how we integrate a bit more maybe with social media. But yeah, generally, I think so far so good, and I think 2022 could be good.
I tell you what, then, if I was to ask you this question, what do you think the target would be for 2022? Like, if you could see anything happen with it, what would you want it to be?
I'd like to see it would be good to see the numbers go up on the listening. So I think we kind of average between the high 20s to 30s. So it'd be nice to see a little bump in that. But I think it's more of a personal thing in the sense of I think I'd like to see us do a little bit more maybe with the socials. So with the TikTok and the YouTube side of things. I think I'd like to maybe us to go out on the road and do couple of podcasts from somewhere.
You know what? Maybe we could do a UK tour. So Wales will
Yeah,
come and do
yeah.
a podcast in Wales for us and get our first listen in the UK.
Well, I was going to suggest
all,
Barbados, but
all of the countries that we that we haven't had a listen in yet. I mean, there might be some that are difficult. North Korea immediately springs to mind. I don't know where we're getting the listen from there. But I think that would be cool as well if we could maybe capture that. I think. But yeah, I mean, I think as well from a personal perspective, it's just I think it's kind of building confidence. I'd like to imagine that if we did this episode again next year, how much there would be to talk about. This would definitely be a 2-hour episode, I think, next year. With the Twitter as well, I don't know if you had it planned to mention, but I think you've had a couple of likes from some famous people.
do you know what? My brain at the moment is all over the place.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you got a like from Ricky Gervais.
Oh yes, so yeah, we did, didn't we?
Yeah. It was a bloody claim to
Did, yeah,
fame.
yeah,
That is.
yeah, Ricky. Yeah, we love you, Ricky. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, yeah, and I remember it was funny the couple of times when we kind of started taking off on Twitter. I remember is waking up because obviously the time difference between here and the States is waking up and seeing there's like 20 notifications on my Twitter app or something, or it's got the little like 20 plus sign, And I think even I warned you, didn't I?
Yeah, I remember once I was in bed with my girlfriend and she was like, "Will you turn your fucking notifications off because your phone's going off?" And obviously, because it's notifications from America, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning here. My phone's going ping, 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 ping.
Yeah, so was there something specific? Was it the fact that you said you'd like to see where we're at this time next year, or was there something specific for you?
Yeah, I think it's just a cool kind of just to see progression. I think this has been, I mean, it's only been, like you said, 16 full episodes and then the one that we kind of squeezed with the kind of mini app. So it's not really been a
Yeah,
particularly
September we
long time. It's
started,
just,
really. We
yeah, yeah.
started in
It's
September.
kind of just a cool reflection from, where the idea started. Because again, it was you that turned around and said, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. Do you fancy it if we just kind of popped on and just had a chat about stuff? And that's really kind of where it came from. I was just like, yeah, there's nothing to lose. I was like, well, what are people going to do? Just not listen to us?
Well,
I'm like, oh,
exactly.
yeah.
Worst case scenario, people don't listen to us, and it's just like you and me having a chat in your living room anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, with COVID and that sort of thing, there was periods of time where we physically might not have been able to see each other anyway. So as a result, it's just like, oh, it's just doing what we would do if we saw each other. So
I think one of the reasons for wanting to do this as well was to do something creative during COVID as well. I think, it's just to do something different. And I'll be honest, I've learned to love the editing part of it. I kind of love it. And like I said, it's funny because I kind of tend to hear us and sometimes as soon as we finish recording, I kind of sometimes forget what we've said. So listening back to it, it just brings it all flooding back. And like I said, sometimes it's I know when we're going to get to a good bit because, like I said, your sound wave just becomes a solid bar that goes from top to bottom, and that's it. I say, right, I've got to do something there.
yeah, you're like, he was either raging or really passionate about something.
So, is there anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I just guess, a big thank you to you for doing all of the editing and taking on all of the stress when it comes to the editing and that sort of thing,
Cheers.
because that's, again, been a very steep learning curve
Yeah.
with that. A thank you to the people that have listened to us wherever in the world that you're listening, and to any future listeners that are outside of this world, welcome. Glad you looked back at our 2021 quarter year in review. But yeah, just a big thank you to everybody that's been listening, really.
Yeah, no, same here. And for the people that have given us reviews, I know we've had a few reviews on like iTunes and on Good Pods. I think we've currently got 23 5 stars on there. If you do like what you hear, please do leave us a review where you can. And as I said, Spotify are now doing ratings, so if you want to listen to us on there and leave us a rating, that'd be great. If you want to get in touch with us, as always, it's castingviewspod@gmail.com, and the Twitter is @castingviews. Yeah, we'll finish with, we know there's a lot of podcasts from which you can choose. So we really do thank you for listening to Casting Views.